What's up, traders? This is Andrew O'Connell with Pristine Capital coming at you with yet another market recap video. It is September 22nd, 2021. Please go ahead, click the like button on this video, subscribe to my channel. Really appreciate you. Today, we're going to talk about the price action, the indices. We're going to go under the hood, check out our sectors and style factors. Today was Fed Wednesday. We're going to talk about that as well. Let's jump right into it, team. Before we do that, quick risk disclaimer, nothing in this video should be construed as investment advice or recommendations. Please follow your own trading plan and your own risk parameters. And last but certainly not least, do not YOLO your entire account into any one of my trades or anyone's trades for that matter. All right, team. So today we had Fed Wednesday and we had a nice market bounce. We had the S&P 500 as measured by the SPY close up 0.98%. We had the NASDAQ QQQ finishing up 0.93%. Small caps were our big winner for today, up 1.55%, and the Dow Jones were up 1%. I actually got long the small caps today. Breadth was also very positive. We had the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones with the best breadth coming in at 83%. And you can see the QQQ at 82%. IWM small caps had 79% breadth. So this is one of the first days in a while where we actually had really nice participation in the market, which is always a good thing. And basically, we had Jerome Powell. Today was actually a big day, so we'll start. I'm going to go to our S&P 500 futures, and it is 6 o'clock. So the evening futures actually just opened up. We're opening up 0.09%. But let's talk about what happened last night. So it was pretty insane, team. Let me just zoom into this. So yesterday was like, all right, we're getting our bullish bounce day. This is awesome. Bouncing, great. We moved into this monthly value area, and then we just sold off into the close. It was like, geez, this has been 13 trading days of just this downtrend, and we can't even manage to get one single bounce day. And then, market closed, market kept spilling. We were down 0.45%. And then with the Evergrande situation, they announced they were going to be making their interest payment to creditors. And one of the big risks on the table for the market was, oh my gosh, Evergrande is going to blow up, and then, it's going to be a systemic contagion, yada, yada, yada. And so that was a huge weight off the market. We ended up gapping higher. So for today's session, S&P 500, we moved nicely off the lows. And today, I mentioned this in the past two videos, but everyone knew exactly what Powell was going to say before he even said it today. He was going to say, the taper is on for November. Everyone already knew that. And that's really it. And that's exactly what he said. So my theory was, if everyone already knows what this man's going to say, and we've been selling off for 2 weeks and the VIX is so bid, why would we have some huge sell the news event on the Fed meeting? So yeah, sure enough, we had some nice strength. We did not close quite on the highs, but still a pretty good closing range. And we closed inside of this monthly value area, and we closed above this 5-day exponential moving average. I will say though that throughout this session, we still had active sellers that were in the market. So let's look at this hourly chart. And you'll see, this was the bounce yesterday, I believe. And this was our bounce today. So look at this right here. So even when we had our big pop in the afternoon, sellers came in and they sold that pop. And then over here, we popped again. This is around 3 o'clock. Sellers came in and sold that as well. So at a certain point, we're about 2 weeks into this downtrend. I would think sellers are going to run out of ammo. And I think today was a good start to that, but it was interesting to see that, we still had those active sellers. Yeah, right now futures are up slightly, which is always good. And yeah, so my baseline expectation, what I'm really looking for here is I would like to see a test of this monthly point of control at 44.16. And I think that makes sense because, all right, we moved inside of value. Now next level up is that 44.16. And then that's also the top of this downward trend channel that we've been in for the past 2 weeks. So we'll see if we get that test. But in this market environment, you really have to be prepared for anything. The VIX is still very elevated. Down huge today, down over 14%, huge extended range red candle, but it's still at 20.87. So we're still pricing in some very volatile markets. And then VVIX was also down over 10%. So yeah, very, definitely the volatility is still a bid in the market, but it is starting to come off. Now let's look at NASDAQ. Nice. NASDAQ is up 0.13% as well. And this actually made it to the top of this monthly value area. And now, let's see if we can actually push out of it. The NASDAQ is much more intact than the S&P 500. You can see we have this 20-day moving average up here as well. Now let's take a look at what we have for the small caps. Small caps are up 0.05%. The small caps hit a pretty big milestone today. So we had this shakeout below the 200-day moving average in August. And now look at this. We got another shakeout below the 200-day moving average. So I know the hedge funds are very short the Russell, but this has been showing some relative strength throughout the sell-off. The Russell has actually made 2 consecutive higher lows. So I'm actually looking for some strength in the Russell into year end. So we'll see if we get that. Yeah, I did get long some Russell calls today. And then we have the Dow Jones, which is trading up 0.11% in the after hours. But yeah, this one, the chart looks very ugly. It's very oversold though. We'll see what happens. But this chart, I still don't really like it for the Dow Jones. All right, let's jump over to our heat map. Let's check it out. Okay, so FinViz heat map. We had some nice participation across the market. What was really interesting is that we had Adobe, which I believe they reported earnings, not so great, down 3%. And Facebook was down almost 4%. So the reason why that is important is because Facebook is a pretty big holding in the S&P 500 and in the NASDAQ. And we staged a nice rally while Facebook was so impaired today. And yeah, you can see the rest of these names, all pulled their weight. And we had, like I said, really nice participation across the board today. Sectors. We had, some nice movers today. MSOS was up 3.73% and was our best performer today. So these cannabis names, they're moving towards the top of our momentum list. That's definitely something to take note of. This sector has basically been left for dead, even though the fundamentals of this sector and the cash flows are pretty strong. So we actually closed above our 20-day simple moving average. I'm actually going to set an alert inside of this monthly value area if we get there. So I'll set it right here. There we go. All right, so those are our sectors. And yeah, nice participation. Only sectors that were not green: the SPAC ETF, ARCG, the genomics fund, transports were down ever so slightly, and utilities. Style factors also really nice participation. And this, to me seems pretty risk on. Our top 2 style factors for today were high beta, up 2.39%, and momentum up 1.69%. All right, team, let's talk about some of my trades for today. So today was one of those days where, it was all about winning ugly for me. Today I was actually long Facebook from Friday. I had some October 15th 360 calls. I actually closed this one out for a loser, closed out for 510. I paid $12.25. This is probably the biggest, on a percentage basis, loser I've taken in quite a while trading options. And this one just didn't really work out. With Facebook, this is going to happen as a trader. So this is why I think it's important to review this one. So Facebook looked like it was oversold, holding the bottom of value. Okay, the whole market's weak. I have this market view that we could get this bounce. So it was like, all right, I'm going to hang on to this. No reason to really get rid of it. Today, though, right in the morning, Facebook just gapped down huge. And I was like, geez, this thing is down so much while the market's getting its nice bounce. I was like, I got to get out of this thing. So I just stopped out of that one. Tried to do it early in the morning, because when you have a trade like that on and you just leave it on in your portfolio, it really doesn't allow you to think about the next best move you should make in the market. A lot of times you're just focused on that. It's really not that good. So I cut that one. I also closed, I had some October QQQ calls, closed those out as well right off the open, just because I wanted to reallocate to the small caps. So close this one out for a loser, reallocated that capital, from Facebook and the Qs into IWM. I picked up some November 19th 220 calls for $7.95. And then this over here, this was basically calling an audible. And I think this was some discombobulation from Facebook. But I ended up closing out my Snapchat calls early in the morning. So this was at 10:07. Closed these out for $7.05. I had paid $6.90. And I really think in the heat of the moment, it was because of this loser that I had with Facebook. This is another thing that happens sometimes with trading. Like, I like to go through, the things I'm doing really well, and then also, the mistakes along the way. So Facebook, this one, it just, every once in a while you get hit with a huge gap, and you get discombobulated. Snapchat early in the morning moved in tandem with Facebook, and it was like, oh my gosh, I have exposure to Facebook, and then I also have exposure to Snapchat. Like, this is horrible, and they're both gapping down while the market is, gapping up really nicely. So I closed out my Facebook, and then I also closed out my Snapchat. But this right here, this is why I don't think it made much sense. I would chalk this up as an unforced error. So Facebook, or no, Snapchat. Take a look at this. So I closed out my Snapchat as it was making its comeback. So Snapchat closes out around 10:07. So let's see, this is the 5-minute chart. And yeah, this was where we gapped down. So this was what kind of discombobulated me. And it was like, oh my gosh, the last thing I want to do is be in losers while the market is going up. So I ended up closing out of this trade basically at 10, right as this one was starting to get its footing. So yeah, it's very tough to know, like, oh my gosh, this one's going to just hold that support and rally. For this one, I probably should have checked this 5-minute chart before I closed it. I did not do that. And what you can see here is we held this 200 period moving average. So that definitely could have helped. And basically, I closed mine out right here on this little red candle. And yeah, this stock ended up ripping. So I posted about this one in our charts channel within the Pristine Capital Trading Group. I basically said, like, hey, my portfolio is full right now. I stopped out earlier. This was probably when the stock was up maybe like 1%. I was like, I'm not going to chase it because I don't want to make like a repeat error where I close it out on the lows, then I buy it back, and then it happens to be on the highs. So I was like, this one I'm just going to let slip, but it still looks really good. And Snapchat does, in fact, still look awesome. So yeah, we closed above value, closed a little bit off the highs, but guess what? Now I can continue watching this one tomorrow. Maybe if we get some pullback or even just a wick play, I can always jump back into it. And then this right here also got long some PDD calls. This was when I stopped out of the other day, and I reallocated to this trade. And this one, yeah, this was kind of tough because, PDD, it was like, all right, I stopped out of this one. And basically in our pre-market session, I was like, I think I may have stopped out of this one on the lows. So I ended up purchasing some calls in this one just in case we get that break above this monthly value area. So we'll see what happens with PDD. But for this second iteration of this trade, I'm just going to make sure that I keep it on a tight leash. But given that Evergrande did not blow up, I'd imagine there will be some players that say, hey, like, what a better time to buy these Chinese names. So we'll see what happens with this PDD. But yeah, definitely some, winning ugly today. And that sort of comes with the territory. Now my portfolio is in a much better place, and I feel comfortable with the assets that I'm long. But yeah, heading into tomorrow's session, there are some names that are really standing out from the pack. And let's just see how these futures, let's check back in on these futures right now. Yeah, still buoyant, so that's looking good. So Datadog, this is a name that I entered, I believe it was yesterday. This one had a really nice breakout. Still long my call spreads here, looking solid. Roku, this is a name I'm in that I think this one could really be turning the corner. So Roku, I like that this one's pulling into the weekly support. So you can see we found support around the same level, around like the 300 level. And then historically for this stock, selling around 500 is the move. So yeah, I figured let me purchase this one on the dip. And I have a call spread on this one expiring October 15th. See if this one can tag this monthly value area low. And this one up 1.81% today, looking pretty good. And it looks like some bottoming action going on in Roku. And then in terms of names that I am not long that I'm interested in, I'll share one here and then I'll share the rest later with the trading group. So this MongoDB looks really solid. This is a name I've pointed out before. Had a really nice earnings report, nice power earnings gap set up. And this one has been consolidating very nicely. It's been like a magnet towards these highs. So if the market continues to be strong tomorrow, this could be a good candidate to look at. And then let's take a look. Let's go to our VigTech options races. Let's see. VigTech, where are you at? There you are. Okay. So VigTech right over here. We will go to our options races. These are the combined flows. Let's take a look at what's going on here. So we have SPY, of course, coming in right at the top. Ooh, and I see the small caps are on here. Oh, and they fell off. Wow. And then Uber's on here. Moderna, Lucid Motors, I'm starting to notice is coming up here a lot more frequently. And then you can see Goldman Sachs is up here as well. So let's take a look at a few of these. So we have Lucid, LCID, Lucid Group. Okay, yeah, this one had what looked like might be a breakout higher. And it looks like a pretty firm rejection today. So you never know. Maybe this one just consolidates for a little bit and actually gets that next leg higher. We'll have to see. Let's take a look at Goldman Sachs. Goldman, this is really a bottom fishing play. Goldman, super oversold. This looks just like the chart of the S&P 500. But yeah, what I will note, just to wrap things up, so we're getting our Fed taper. They're going to start likely in November at the next Fed meeting. They'll announce, hey, we're going to taper. They said, all we need to do is just see this jobs report. They said, as long as it comes out decent, they're going to start. So what's interesting is the S&P 500 has just closed 3 consecutive days below the 50-day moving average. And I'm looking, oh my gosh, that's the longest amount of time we've been below the 50-day since 2020. So this is definitely a character change. Like in 2020, we did have, these little spurts here where, look at this. So this was in September of last year. Of course, September is a weak month seasonally. This was a very difficult correction to navigate because look, we got oversold. Then we were trying to bounce, very similar to what happened right over here. We were trying to bounce, see this green candle. We couldn't. We got the next leg lower. That's exactly what happened here. Leg down, next leg lower. And then we tried to bounce again. And we had another red shakeout candle. And that was pretty devastating. That looked like, oh my gosh, like the market's never going to turn. We just closed on the lows. And that ended up being the bottom. So yeah, these down sequences, they're no joke. Where, tomorrow, for all we know, if this was a bearish engulfing candle, we went all the way down to these lows. How demoralizing would that be for market bulls? So I think so long as we're under the 50, we definitely need to be extra cautious. And I think a good line in the sand is this monthly value area low. So if the market really wants to just break out to the upside, test this 50-day moving average or test this monthly point of control, we really shouldn't be closing below this monthly value area again. So yeah, definitely going to be very interesting into the end of the week. We'll see what happens. Right now I'm leaning pretty bullish. That being said, that about does it for this market recap video. Hope you all had an awesome trading session today, and I'll see you all tomorrow.